Welcome back to the channel. What if I told you that a simple 1977 D1 cent coin, a tiny piece of copper you might have tossed into a jar or ignored at the bottom of your drawer, could secretly be worth an unbelievable $24 million because of rare mint errors and shocking production mistakes that most people never notice? Welcome back to the channel where we uncover hidden treasures in everyday pocket change and reveal the jaw-dropping truth about coins that look ordinary but carry extraordinary value. Today we are diving deep into the fascinating story of the 1977 D Lincoln cent struck at the legendary United States Mint in Denver, a coin that at first glance seems completely common, but under the right circumstances can transform into a life-changing discovery. And if you love rare coins and the thrill of the hunt, make sure you stay until the end, because what you learn today might push you to check every single penny you own. The 1977 D1 cent coin features the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design created by Victor David Brenner that has become one of the most recognized images in American history. And on the reverse, it carries the classic Lincoln Memorial design introduced in 1959. But what makes certain examples of this coin explode in value is not the basic design or even the date itself. It is the extraordinary combination of minting errors, striking anomalies, metal composition irregularities, and rare die varieties that can turn a 1 cent coin into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. In 1977, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies, meaning that most 1977 D cents are worth exactly 1 cent or maybe a few cents in uncirculated condition. But hidden among those mountains of copper-plated coins are a few astonishing mistakes that collectors dream about. One of the most powerful value-boosting factors is a dramatic double die error where the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust" appears visibly doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process. This doubling is not simple machine doubling, which is flat and shelf-like, but true hub doubling that shows strong separation and distinct overlapping impressions. And when such a doubled die is discovered in pristine mint state condition with sharp details and blazing red luster, it can command staggering prices at auction because collectors recognize its extreme rarity and the historical accident that created it. Another possibility that pushes a 1977 D cent toward extraordinary value is an off-center strike where the coin was not properly seated during the striking process, causing part of the design to be missing while still retaining the full visible date and mint mark. And if the off-center error is dramatic, such as 50% or more, with strong eye appeal and minimal damage, collectors can pay thousands or even tens of thousands depending on the severity and uniqueness. But the real fantasy scenario that fuels the $24 million narrative involves a combination of multiple rare errors on a single coin. Imagine a 1977 D penny struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps a leftover bronze planchet with an unusual weight, or even a foreign planchet accidentally mixed into the press, combined with a bold double die obverse and struck slightly off-center, preserved in near-perfect condition for decades without anyone realizing its significance. That kind of once-in-a-lifetime discovery would be considered a numismatic unicorn, the type of coin that major auction houses fight to represent and wealthy collectors compete aggressively to own. Another error that can dramatically raise the value is a broad strike where the retaining collar failed and the coin expanded beyond its normal diameter, creating a distorted and oversized appearance while still displaying sharp details. Broad-struck coins with clean surfaces and full red coloration can be extremely desirable, especially when tied to a popular series like the Lincoln cent. And speaking of composition, it is important to remember that 1977 cents were primarily copper with a small amount of zinc. But if an experimental or transitional metal error were ever discovered from that year, similar to famous transitional errors from other dates, the shockwaves in the coin collecting world would be immediate, because transitional errors represent moments when the mint changed compositions and a few stray planchets slipped through. Even though no officially documented transitional 1977 D bronze to zinc change occurred that year, the possibility of an undocumented anomaly keeps collectors searching because history has shown that the unexpected can and does appear decades later. Another highly valuable mistake involves die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring faint mirrored images onto each other and creating ghost-like outlines behind the main design. And when these clashes are strong and dramatic, they create unique patterns that specialists pay premium prices for. Die cracks and cuds are additional minting flaws that can make a 1977 decent valuable, especially large cuds where a chunk of the die breaks off near the rim, producing a raised blob of metal on the coin. Major retained cuds or full rim breaks are visually striking and highly collectible. And if such an error were found on a coin graded at the highest mint state levels by a respected third-party grading service, its value could skyrocket beyond normal expectations. Condition plays an enormous role in pushing any error coin toward multi-million-dollar potential because the difference between a circulated example with scratches and dull surfaces and a flawless mint state red specimen with no contact marks is astronomical in the coin market. Collectors pay exponential premiums for coins that survive in perfect or near-perfect condition, especially from high mintage years where pristine preservation is statistically rare. Imagine discovering a 1977 D double die obverse in MS68 red condition with full blazing luster, microscopic details intact, and no carbon spots. Such a coin would ignite bidding wars among registry set competitors who are obsessed with owning the finest known examples. And registry competition has become one of the driving forces behind record-breaking coin prices because collectors compete for top-ranked sets certified by major grading companies. The psychological element of owning the single finest known specimen of a rare error cannot be underestimated and often pushes prices into 7 or 8 figures. Another possibility that adds to the $24 million story is a dramatic struck through error where foreign materials such as cloth, grease, or debris was present on the die at the moment of striking, creating intricate missing design areas or textured impressions that are one of a kind, especially if the struck through material left a detailed pattern that is visually captivating. Coins are historical artifacts, and when a mistake captures a frozen moment inside the minting facility, it tells a story that collectors are willing to pay huge sums to own. We must also consider the role of publicity and media hype, because when a coin is labeled as potentially worth millions due to a rare error narrative, interest surges and more people begin searching, sometimes leading to legitimate discoveries, and sometimes leading to inflated claims. But history has shown that extraordinary coins do surface from ordinary circulation, and that possibility fuels the excitement around the 1977 D penny. Another rare scenario involves a double denomination strike where a coin is struck by two different dies from separate denominations, creating overlapping designs. While extremely rare, this kind of error on a Lincoln cent would be considered a legendary piece and could command unbelievable value depending on clarity and condition. Rotated die errors are also collectible, where the reverse design is rotated significantly from its normal alignment relative to the obverse, and extreme rotations near 180 degrees are far more desirable than minor shifts, adding another layer of potential value. If combined with other anomalies, we also cannot ignore the possibility of a proof strike mix-up. If by some extraordinary oversight a proof die or proof planchet were used at the Denver facility in 1977, creating a coin with mirrored fields and frosted devices bearing the D mint mark, that would represent a monumental error and could instantly become one of the most famous Lincoln cents in existence. Over the decades, collectors have uncovered previously unknown varieties through meticulous examination under magnification, discovering repunched mint marks, subtle double dies, and die polishing lines that differentiate rare sub-varieties from common coins, and the 1977 D cent remains an active field of study among specialists who scrutinize every detail searching for the next big discovery. The $24 million valuation is often tied to the hypothetical combination of rarity, dramatic error, elite condition, and intense collector demand converging at the perfect moment in the market, because value in numismatics is not only about metal content, but about story, scarcity, and competition. When a coin captures public imagination and is authenticated as unique or one of only a handful known, wealthy collectors may view it as both a trophy and an investment, driving prices far beyond traditional expectations. It is crucial for anyone searching their change to understand the difference between real mint errors and post-mint damage, because scratches, environmental corrosion, and machine damage can mimic certain effects but do not carry the same value. Learning to identify true hub doubling versus mechanical doubling, recognizing genuine off-center strikes versus coins that have been altered, and weighing coins accurately to detect wrong planchet errors are essential skills that can prevent costly mistakes. A genuine error coin often shows consistent metal flow, natural luster patterns, and integrated design distortions that cannot be replicated after the coin leaves the mint. Another factor that could elevate a 1977 descent into legendary territory is provenance. If a rare error coin can be traced back to a well-known collection or discovered in an original bank roll from 1977 that remained sealed for decades, that backstory enhances credibility and desirability. Collectors love coins with documented histories because they connect present ownership with past discovery. Imagine opening an untouched roll of 1977 pennies stored since the late 1970s and finding a spectacular double die combined with a broad strike and blazing red surfaces. That moment would be electrifying and could redefine the market for that date forever. We also have to acknowledge the power of grading and authentication, because a coin claimed to be worth millions must be certified by a respected authority to command serious money. Once encapsulated and labeled with a top grade and detailed error attribution, the coin becomes eligible for major auctions where global bidders participate. High-profile auctions create media attention, and media attention attracts even more bidders, creating a cycle that can drive prices to unimaginable heights. The Lincoln Cent series remains one of the most widely collected in the world, which means demand is deep and passionate, from beginners filling albums to advanced specialists chasing rare varieties. This broad collector base ensures that when a truly exceptional 1977 error surfaces, there will be no shortage of interested buyers. And that is why stories of multi-million-dollar pennies continue to capture attention, because even though the vast majority are common, the slim possibility of finding a spectacular error keeps the dream alive. Every jar of change becomes a potential treasure chest. Every roll from the bank becomes an opportunity, and every inherited coin collection becomes a mystery waiting to be explored. The 1977 1-cent coin might look ordinary with its familiar portrait of Lincoln and its simple copper color, but beneath that modest appearance lies the potential for extraordinary value if the right combination of minting mistakes occurred at the exact wrong moment inside the press room decades ago. That is the magic of numismatics, where human error transforms metal into legend. So before you dismiss that old penny sitting on your desk, take a closer look at the date, inspect the mint mark, examine the lettering for doubling, check the rim for cuts or cracks, weigh it carefully, and imagine the possibility that you could be holding a once-in-a-lifetime error that collectors would fight to own, because history has proven that remarkable discoveries happen when curiosity meets knowledge. And if you found this deep dive into the 1977 penny fascinating, and you want to keep uncovering hidden coin treasures that could change your financial future forever, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story about ordinary coins hiding extraordinary value waiting to be discovered. Next, 1982 1-cent coin. What if I told you that a single 1982 1-cent coin, a tiny piece of change that most people wouldn't bend down to pick up, could be worth an astonishing $23 million under the right circumstances? Welcome back to the channel where we uncover jaw-dropping secrets hiding in plain sight inside everyday pocket change. Because today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and controversial pennies in modern American coin collecting history, the 1982 D. Lincoln cent, a coin born in a year of massive transition at the United States Mint that changed the metal composition of the cent forever. And that single historic shift is exactly why certain 1982 D pennies have the potential to command life-changing money. On the surface, the coin looks completely ordinary with the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner and the classic Lincoln Memorial reverse. But 1982 was not a normal year because it marked the end of the traditional 95% copper cent and the beginning of the copper-plated zinc era. And during this dramatic transition, multiple varieties were struck, including large date and small date designs, different weights, and different metallic compositions, creating a perfect storm of confusion, rarity, and opportunity that collectors are still studying decades later. To understand how a 1982 D penny could ever reach a $23 million valuation, you first need to understand the chaos inside the minting process. That year, rising copper prices forced the mint to reduce costs by switching from solid bronze planchets weighing approximately 3.11 grams to zinc cores weighing about 2.5 grams coated with a thin layer of copper. And because the transition did not happen overnight, both compositions were struck during 1982, along with large date and small date varieties from different facilities, which created 8 distinct collectible combinations across Philadelphia and Denver. But here is where the mystery intensifies. Officially, the Denver Mint was believed to have struck only large date copper and large date zinc cents in 1982, with no small date copper version released. However, numismatics has a long history of surprises, and when a unique 1982 D small date copper cent surfaced and was authenticated years later, it sent shockwaves through the collecting community because it represented a variety that theoretically should not exist. That discovery alone proved that even decades after production, the story of 1982 cents is not fully written. Now imagine the scenario that fuels the $23 million legend. What if more undiscovered transitional errors are still out there, hidden in coin jars, old piggy banks, inherited collections, or forgotten bank rolls? A 1982 D penny struck on the wrong planchet combining the small date style with a heavier bronze composition is already one of the rarest modern cents known. But if a specimen were discovered in pristine mint state condition, graded at the absolute top of the scale with full blazing red luster and razor-sharp details, it could ignite a bidding war unlike anything seen before in the Lincoln cent series. Registry collectors compete fiercely for finest known examples, and when a coin is unique or nearly unique, the sky becomes the limit. The $23 million valuation is not about ordinary circulation pieces with scratches and wear. It is about the perfect storm of rarity, condition, authentication, publicity, and elite collector demand converging at one electrifying auction event. Beyond the famous small date copper mystery, there are additional errors and striking anomalies that can push the 1982 D cent into extraordinary territory. Dramatic double die varieties where the date, Liberty, or I in God We Trust show clear hub doubling can command massive premiums, especially when the doubling is bold and not flat machine doubling. True hub doubling displays separation and depth that cannot be faked by simple mechanical shift. Off-center strikes retaining a full visible date and mint mark are highly collectible, particularly when 40 to 60% off-center with strong eye appeal. Broad strikes caused by collar malfunctions create oversized, distorted coins that captivate collectors. And if such an error were discovered on a confirmed copper small date 1982 D cent, the combination would be almost mythical. Die cracks and large cuts where pieces of the die break away, leaving raised blobs of metal along the rim, are also sought after, especially when dramatic and well preserved. Another thrilling possibility involves wrong planchet errors, where a cent design is struck on a foreign coin blank or even on a planchet intended for another denomination. During years of composition change, the chances of cross-contamination in planchet bins increase, and while extremely rare, these mistakes have occurred in other years. If a 1982 D cent were discovered struck on a bronze planchet intended for a previous year, or on an experimental alloy not meant for circulation, its uniqueness could command extraordinary sums. Weight is one of the most critical factors when examining a 1982 D penny because the difference between 3.11 grams and 2.5 grams reveals whether the coin is copper or zinc. Serious collectors use precise digital scales accurate to hundredths of a gram, and even slight deviations can signal something unusual. But authentication is crucial because altered coins exist where copper plating has been manipulated or zinc cores have been tampered with. Only certified examples verified by respected third-party grading services carry the kind of credibility required to approach multi-million-dollar discussions. Condition amplifies everything in numismatics. A rare variety in circulated condition might be worth thousands, or even hundreds of thousands. But the same coin in near-perfect mint state red condition can multiply in value exponentially. Surface preservation, absence of carbon spots, strong strike details on Lincoln's hair and beard, and vibrant original luster all contribute to elite grading outcomes. And in today's competitive registry environment, the difference between MS66 red and MS68 red can mean millions of dollars. Collectors building top-ranked Lincoln cent sets will pay staggering premiums to secure a coin that no one else can match. Publicity also plays a powerful role. Once news spreads that a 1982 D transitional copper small date exists and is confirmed, more collectors begin searching. Media outlets report on the discovery, YouTube channels discuss the possibility, and a wave of renewed interest floods the market. That excitement can drive bidding intensity to record-breaking levels, especially if only one or two examples are known. History shows that unique modern errors can achieve astonishing results because they combine accessibility with rarity. Everyone can search for them, but almost no one finds them. That paradox creates obsession. Beyond transitional metal errors, the 1982 D cent can also display rotated die errors where the reverse is misaligned significantly from the obverse. Dramatic rotations near 180 degrees are far more desirable than minor shifts. Struck-through errors caused by debris, grease, or cloth between die and planchet can produce missing design elements or textured impressions that are completely unique. Clipped planchets where a curved portion of the blank is missing due to improper punching from metal strips are collectible, especially when the clip is large and the remaining design remains sharp. Multiple error combinations elevate value exponentially. Imagine a confirmed 1982 D small date copper cent weighing 3.11 grams, graded MS68 red, with bold double die obverse, and struck 50% off-center, with the date fully visible. Such a coin would be considered a once-in-a-generation discovery, and could redefine the ceiling for modern Lincoln cents. Another fascinating dimension of 1982 involves the large date versus small date diagnostics. Subtle differences in the shape of the numerals, particularly the curvature of the 2 and the thickness of the 8, help specialists identify varieties. These tiny distinctions determine whether a coin is common or potentially legendary. That is why magnification and education are essential for anyone serious about searching. Post-mint damage must also be ruled out carefully because flattened zinc bubbles, plating blisters, and environmental corrosion can mimic rare errors but carry no premium value. True mint errors exhibit consistent metal flow and integrated distortions formed at the moment of striking. Provenance can add further mystique. If a rare 1982 D copper small date were traced back to an original sealed bank bag from the Denver facility, or discovered inside an untouched estate collection stored since the early 1980s, the documented chain of custody would enhance buyer confidence and drive prices higher. Auction dynamics can transform valuation dramatically when two determined collectors with deep resources compete for a unique coin. The final hammer price can exceed all previous expectations, and in the age of global online bidding, wealthy participants from around the world can join simultaneously. pushing rare coins into eight-figure territory. The $23 million figure represents the ultimate convergence of uniqueness, elite condition, certified authenticity, intense registry competition, and worldwide publicity. It reflects not just the metal but the story, the rarity, and the emotional power of owning something that almost no one else on Earth can possess. The 1982 D1 coin stands at the crossroads of old and new, copper and zinc, tradition and transition, and that historical significance alone makes it one of the most studied modern cents. The possibility that undiscovered transitional errors still exist keeps collectors examining every 1982 penny they encounter, from pocket change to coin roll hunts, from flea markets to inherited jars. Every coin becomes a potential lottery ticket backed not by chance alone, but by knowledge and careful observation. So before you dismiss that brown or reddish penny dated 1982 with a small D mint mark beneath the date, take a moment to weigh it, study the numerals, inspect the surfaces, and imagine the possibility that you might be holding a coin that represents a minting mistake frozen in time. A mistake that collectors would battle fiercely to own, because history has proven again and again that extraordinary treasures sometimes hide in the most ordinary places. And if this deep exploration into the 1982 D set opened your eyes to the hidden potential sitting quietly in your spare change, and you want to keep discovering more unbelievable coin stories that could change your financial future forever, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next opportunity to uncover a fortune hiding in plain sight. Next, 1981 1-cent coin. What if I told you that a simple 1981 1-cent coin, the kind you might ignore in your pocket or toss into a jar without a second thought, could under the right circumstances be worth an astonishing $24 million? Welcome back to the channel where we uncover the hidden fortunes buried inside everyday coins and reveal how ordinary pocket change can sometimes transform into extraordinary wealth. Because today, we are diving deep into the incredible story of the 1981 Lincoln cent, a coin struck during a fascinating period in American minting history at the legendary United States Mint, featuring the timeless portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that millions see every day yet few truly examine closely. And while most 1981 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent or perhaps a few cents in uncirculated condition, there exists the electrifying possibility that certain rare error varieties, dramatic minting mistakes, and pristine, high-grade examples could command life-changing sums reaching into the tens of millions. To understand how such a valuation could even be imagined, you have to step into the world of numismatics where rarity, condition, historical context, and collector competition combine in explosive ways. In 1981, the mint was still producing cents primarily composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing approximately 3.11 grams, just 1 year before the massive composition change of 1982 that shifted to copper-plated zinc planchets, meaning 1981 represents the final full year of the traditional bronze cent era, and transitional periods in minting history always carry heightened potential for anomalies, because whenever equipment is adjusted, dies are replaced, or materials are stockpiled in anticipation of change, the opportunity for mistakes quietly increases. Among the most valuable possibilities for a 1981 cent is a dramatic double die obverse where the date, the word liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust" displays strong, separated doubling created during the hubbing process of the die itself. True double dies show clear overlapping impressions with depth and separation unlike flat mechanical doubling, and when such a variety is discovered with bold visibility and certified in elite mint state red condition, it becomes a magnet for serious collectors. The difference between a lightly circulated example and a flawless MS-68 or higher red specimen with blazing original luster can be the difference between thousands and millions. Because top registry competitors fight relentlessly for the finest known examples of every major variety, And if a unique or nearly unique double die were confirmed for 1981 in ultra-high grade, the bidding war could shatter expectations. Beyond double dies, there are off-center strikes that can dramatically increase value, especially when 40 to 60% off-center, while still retaining a fully visible date. Collectors prize these errors because they are visually striking and undeniably authentic. Mint mistakes frozen in time. Broad strikes caused by collar malfunctions create coins that expand beyond their normal diameter, producing a distorted yet captivating appearance. And when combined with sharp details and full red surfaces, these can command impressive premiums. Another thrilling possibility is a wrong planchet error, where a 1981 cent design is struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin. Such cross-denomination strikes are rare, but well documented in numismatic history. And if a 1981 cent were discovered struck on an experimental alloy or a planchet leftover from a different year's production, it could instantly become one of the most famous Lincoln cents ever known. Weight becomes a crucial diagnostic tool here, because a normal 1981 bronze cent should weigh about 3.11 grams. Any significant deviation verified on a calibrated scale could signal something extraordinary. Die clashes are another fascinating category where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring ghost-like design elements that later appear on coins struck afterward. Strong die clash marks create unique patterns that specialists eagerly seek. Large die cracks and cuts where a chunk of the die breaks off near the rim, leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin, can also generate strong collector demand, especially when dramatic and well preserved. And if such an error were found on a near-perfect uncirculated coin, the combination of eye appeal and rarity could push values dramatically higher. Rotated die errors, where the reverse design is significantly misaligned relative to the obverse, are also collectible, especially rotations approaching 180 degrees. And while minor rotations are common and inexpensive, extreme rotations are far rarer and far more desirable. Struck through errors caused by debris, grease, or cloth between die and planchet can create missing design elements or textured impressions that are entirely unique. Each struck through tells a one-of-a-kind story from inside the minting press room, and uniqueness drives value when paired with certification and elite condition. Another layer of possibility lies in proof coin mix-ups. Although 1981 proof cents were struck separately, if by some extraordinary oversight a proof die or specially prepared planchet were used in a business strike production run, the resulting coin, with mirrored fields and frosted devices, would represent a monumental error capable of commanding staggering attention at auction. Condition cannot be overstated in importance. Most 1981 cents entered heavy circulation and were exposed to wear, scratches, carbon spotting, and environmental damage, making superb gem-red examples increasingly difficult to locate decades later. Collectors scrutinize strike sharpness, especially in Lincoln's hair and beard details, surface preservation free of nicks, and the brilliance of original mint luster. When a coin survives untouched in a sealed bank roll or original mint set and emerges decades later with flawless surfaces, its scarcity at that level of preservation multiplies dramatically. Registry set competition amplifies this effect because collectors chasing the #1 ranked Lincoln cent set will pay exponential premiums to secure the finest graded example of a scarce variety. Publicity also plays a major role in pushing valuations toward multimillion-dollar territory. Once a coin is labeled as potentially unique or the finest known, media outlets, online platforms, and collecting communities amplify the story, attracting new bidders and intensifying demand. Provenance can further enhance value. If a rare 1981 era coin can be traced back to an original estate collection stored since the early 1980s or discovered in an untouched bank bag from the mint, documented history builds buyer confidence and emotional appeal. The $24 million narrative reflects not an average 1981 penny but a hypothetical perfect storm scenario, Imagine a previously unknown major double die obverse discovered on a 1981 cent struck on a wrong planchet with a dramatic off-center strike, graded MS69 read by a respected authority, confirmed unique, and backed by ironclad provenance. Unveiled at a high-profile international auction with two determined billionaires competing for ownership, in such an extraordinary convergence of factors the final hammer price could soar beyond conventional expectations because value in numismatics is driven by rarity, desirability, and competition, not simply by face value or metal content. It is also important to distinguish genuine mint errors from post-mint damage, scratches, flattened areas, environmental corrosion, and plating bubbles can mimic rare anomalies, but do not carry true numismatic value. Authentic errors show consistent metal flow lines and integrated distortions created during the striking process itself. Education is the collector's greatest tool, examining coins under magnification, learning diagnostics of real double dies versus machine doubling, weighing coins accurately, and comparing date styles are essential practices for anyone serious about searching. The beauty of the 1981 cent story is that it remains accessible. Billions were struck across multiple facilities, meaning examples still circulate and rest quietly in jars and drawers across the country. Every handful of pennies becomes a treasure hunt. Every inherited coin box a potential discovery. History has repeatedly proven that remarkable finds surface decades after minting, sometimes hiding in plain sight until a curious eye takes a closer look. The 1981 1-cent coin stands as a symbol of the final chapter of the traditional bronze era before the composition shift of 1982 reshaped the cent forever. That historical position alone makes it significant, and when you combine that significance with the ever-present possibility of rare errors, elite condition survivors, and undiscovered varieties, you begin to understand how a humble penny could ignite dreams of $24 million. So before you dismiss that 1981 cent as ordinary, take a moment to inspect it carefully. Check the surfaces for doubling, examine the rims for cuts or cracks, weigh it precisely, study the alignment, and imagine the possibility that you might be holding a coin that captures a rare moment of minting history, because in the world of coin collecting, knowledge transforms ordinary change into opportunity. And as we continue deeper into the remarkable possibilities surrounding the 1981 1-cent coin, you begin to realize that its potential for a $24 million valuation is not built on fantasy alone, but on the powerful combination of rarity discovery, elite preservation, and the relentless passion of collectors who specialize in the Lincoln cent series. Because within the massive production numbers of 1981 struck by the United States Mint across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco facilities lies the undeniable truth that minting operations are run by humans and machines, and whenever humans and machines interact at high speed under industrial pressure, mistakes are inevitable, sometimes subtle, sometimes dramatic, and occasionally historic. The majority of 1981 cents featuring the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner passed through circulation unnoticed, worn down by decades of commerce, but a tiny fraction may have escaped into the world, carrying unique fingerprints of error that transform them from common currency into coveted artifacts. One of the most underappreciated yet potentially explosive categories of value lies in die-state progression. Early die-state coins struck from freshly polished dies often show crisp details and sharp lines, while late die-state examples can display heavy die cracks, flow lines, and cuts that dramatically alter the coin's appearance. A retained cut on a 1981 cent that grows progressively larger across documented specimens can create a collectible narrative where specialists seek each stage. And if a massive full rim break were discovered on a superb gem red coin, it could represent the finest known example of that die failure, escalating demand instantly. Another compelling angle involves repunched mint marks on 1981 D cents. Although by the 1980s mint marks were typically punched into working dies at the master hub stage, transitional procedures sometimes created subtle anomalies where traces of secondary impressions can be seen under magnification. A clearly visible repunched D mint mark on a high-grade 1981 cent would electrify variety collectors who obsess over mint mark positioning and shape diagnostics. The same excitement applies to dramatic misaligned die strikes where one side of the coin is offset slightly while the other remains centered, creating uneven rims and visually striking imbalance that confirms a striking error occurred within the collar assembly. And when such misalignment is bold yet the coin retains full red luster and clean surfaces, it becomes a premium target. We must also explore the possibility of experimental planchets, because mints frequently test metal compositions in advance of official transitions. And although 1982 is widely known for the copper to zinc changeover, internal experimentation may have occurred earlier. If a confirmed 1981 cent were discovered struck on an off-metal experimental alloy differing measurably in composition from standard bronze, authenticated through metallurgical testing and certified by leading grading authorities, its uniqueness could push it into legendary territory. Wrong stock thickness errors are another intriguing avenue. If a cent were struck on a planchet rolled to slightly incorrect thickness, the resulting coin could exhibit unusual diameter or edge characteristics that specialists would quickly recognize as a production anomaly. Such technical nuances often escape casual observers, but command serious attention from experts. Then, there are double strikes where a coin is struck twice by the dies, either in collar or out of collar, producing overlapping images that clearly demonstrate mechanical malfunction during the striking cycle. A well-centered double strike with dramatic separation and visible date on both impressions can be visually stunning and extremely desirable, especially when preserved in high mint state grades. Imagine discovering a 1981 cent double struck and slightly rotated between strikes with blazing red surfaces and minimal contact marks. That alone could command extraordinary attention at auction. Now layer onto that scenario a rare double die obverse or significant die crack, and you begin to see how rarity compounds exponentially. Even the surface chemistry of bronze cents adds complexity. 1981 pennies were susceptible to carbon spotting and toning variations, and while many tone coins lose value due to unattractive discoloration, some develop beautiful iridescent rainbow toning that enhances eye appeal dramatically. Premium quality natural toning on a top-grade example can add substantial premiums because advanced collectors prize originality and aesthetic uniqueness. Provenance continues to amplify value. A coin discovered in an original 1981 mint set preserved in ideal climate conditions for decades carries an aura of untouched authenticity. If that same coin later receives the highest certified grade known for the variety, it becomes a trophy piece. Registry set participants compete fiercely for top rankings, and when population reports show only one example at a particular grade level, the competition becomes intense and deeply personal. Auction psychology plays a crucial role in record-setting outcomes. Two determined collectors with vast resources can push bidding far beyond guidebook estimates, especially when a coin represents a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity unlikely to reappear for generations. Media coverage, viral stories, and collector forums amplify anticipation before the sale, creating momentum that culminates in explosive hammer prices. The $24 million narrative reflects the outer boundary of possibility where uniqueness, perfect preservation, elite certification, and global publicity collide at precisely the right moment. Critics may argue that such valuations are extreme, yet numismatic history repeatedly demonstrates that extraordinary coins rewrite expectations, particularly when they combine historical transition significance with dramatic mint error status. The 1981 cent occupies a pivotal place just before the monumental 1982 composition shift, making it the final chapter of the full bronze era. That context alone adds symbolic weight. Collectors often view end-of-era issues with heightened reverence, and when an end-of-era coin carries a spectacular error, it becomes more than metal, it becomes a tangible artifact marking the close of a long production tradition. Education remains the key for anyone hoping to uncover such treasure. Careful inspection under strong magnification, precise weighing on calibrated digital scales, verifying alignment by flipping the coin vertically, comparing date styles against known diagnostics, and consulting trusted numismatic references are all essential steps. Patience is equally important because the overwhelming majority of 1981 cents are ordinary, but the thrill of possibility lies in the knowledge that rare survivors do exist and occasionally surface decades later in forgotten jars or estate collections. Every roll of pennies from the bank becomes a chance to uncover something extraordinary. Every inherited coin box becomes a mystery waiting to unfold, and that enduring accessibility is what keeps the Lincoln Cent series among the most widely collected in the world. The dream that a humble penny bearing the portrait of Lincoln could transform into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece fuels passion across generations. So as you continue your search, remember that rarity often hides behind familiarity. Examine each 1981 cent carefully, look for doubling in the lettering, inspect the rims for breaks or cracks, evaluate the mint mark placement, weigh the coin precisely, and preserve any unusual find safely until it can be authenticated professionally. Because in the world of coin collecting, knowledge is the difference between spending a fortune unknowingly and securing a fortune intentionally, and the next astonishing discovery might be resting quietly in your spare change right now, waiting for a sharp eye to recognize its true potential.